his PhD in sociology, right? So now he's doctor student, right? And then he still winds up in the same place, part-time at Walmart. Can never pay the loan off. And all the loans do get larger and larger, and they loom over everyone like a lead balloon. Now, what really hurts is that those families who have the facility to send their students, to their children to school, their sons and daughters to school, all right? Instead of paying, $10,000, now they're paying $70,000. So what you are in effect doing is that you are draining money from middle-class people. I'm not talking about the wealthy, the super wealthy. You're taking money from the middle-class people, $70,000. It could be a good portion of what they're saving to retire. You're taking because they want their children to have an opportunity, in this wonderful free market enterprise bull crap, economy that we have. So they will sacrifice, and they will sacrifice even their retirement money to bring their kids to school, not realizing that they're sacrificing their future, and they're not providing their children with an education that they can use. Let me give you an example. Let's go back to the basketball court. Preston, you want to go back to the basketball court? Okay. Yeah. I'm going to ask you a question. How many NBA teams are there?
32.
30.
32.
Okay. 32 now.
30?
There's 30. They're 30. Okay, 30. All right, 30. All right. There are 30 NBA teams. Now, what is the probability? Now, this falls in line exactly what I'm talking about. Kids go to school, right? And they should be at least counseled as to how to become productive in society. Kid decides, man, I want to play basketball. That's fine. Basketball is a great sport, good exercise and the whole bit. Play basketball until you drop. It's wonderful. But don't consider it. At least there should be somebody with a half a brain cell working in our public school system, and there's not one half brain cell working in the entire school system in the United States. Not one. If you added all the brains together in the U.S. public school system, you wouldn't get a half a brain. Okay? Because these kids are saying, man, I want to play basketball. So you get a coach saying, okay, Johnny, we're going to get you to play basketball. We're going to hustle. We're going to win. We're going to win the championship, the district championship, blah, 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 blah. But how many coaches sit down and say, Johnny, let me tell you reality. Just like reality in a talk show, looks easy, runs tough. All right? Do you know how many schools there are with basketball teams? Thousands. There are thousands of high school teams, right? All with pretty good basketball players. Now, what is the probability that you, in fact, will go from where you are in high school to college? Because there's infinitely smaller number. And let me give you, Johnny, some statistics. The probability right now, the latest statistics show that if you want to go into the NBA, right, your chances of getting in the NBA from high school, if you're good, all right, that means if you're a good player in high school, is 1 out of 8,932. That's statistics. All right, so 1 out of 9,000. Now, 1 out of 9,000, I can guarantee you stand a better chance of being a neurosurgeon, a much better chance of being a neurosurgeon, being successful, and if you do go through school as a neurosurgeon, you will in fact get a very good job, very, very good pay, and you'll be an upstanding person. You'll be looked up in your community as being, a very, very high level of society. The probability of you getting into college is extremely low. College NCAA teams, I forgot how many there are, but the probability, President, how many?
I'm going to look that up.
All right, we're going to look that up.
160 teams.
About 100. That's
160.
well. How many colleges have basketball teams?
I think it's up there. I'll look
Yeah,
it up
it's
right
in the
now.
thousands. It's hundreds at least. Yeah, in the hundreds, right? Now, I thought it was like 800 or something like that. But anyway, the probability of if you're in college, in a good college, and you want to go to the NBA, the probability of you getting to the NBA, is 525 to 1. Now, would you ever take a bet and say, I want to bet you something, 525 to 1 odds? Would you ever take that bet? Well, no, you wouldn't. You'd say, no, that's a dumb bet to take. It's stupid, But yet, people who go to school our bastions of education, of logic, of thinking, never even talk about that. You want to know why I'm down on our school system? Because it sucks. It sucks because I'm being nice, because I can't say what I want to say on the air. I'll get taken off. That's how bad it is. So you think anyone says, hey, Johnny, you want to be honest with you? I said, you stand a better chance of being a neurosurgeon, even if you don't get very good marks, you stand a better, than going down the NBA. Now, let's go even further than that. We want to take this even further, because let's assume for a second that you are one of the 525 good NBA, NCAA college basketball players, and you get on the NBA. That doesn't mean you get to play. That means you're just drafted by the NBA. You may sit on the bench. There's only how many people on the basketball court, Preston? 5?
There's going to be 10 total, but 5 on
Five on each team. All right. There's only 5 guys on that court. And if there's 5 good guys and you're sitting on the bench, guess where you're going to sit the rest of your life? On the bench. Now, how many players are recruited on the NBA, sit on the bench, and rarely, if ever, get to play, and then are dropped off and are replaced by somebody else? Well, I don't know the number there. I have to look it up, but I don't know the number. But I would suspect a majority of them. So although you may get recruited by the NBA, your 525 to 1 is now well over 1,000 to 1 that you'll even get to play on the NBA and stay on the team for any length of time and make any money. Now, I'll tell you, give me 1,000 to 1 odds on anything, and guess what? I'll take the 1,000, forget the odd, the 1. I'm not going to win. But yet, my point being is that we don't tell our students that. We don't say, hey, Johnny, yeah, I know you're not the best student in the world, but believe me, you stand a better chance of being a doctor, a medical doctor, than you do ever getting on the basketball courts. Let's play basketball for fun, but let's redirect your efforts into an area where you can be productive to society. Not our school system. No, I'm proud of my son. He won the game yesterday against this high school or this college and all that. All this garbage, right? Now, I've known, in fact, I worked with a gal whose husband was played in the NBA, and he was on TV. He was on the Buffalo Bills. And he was number 88. He was a tight end. And I used to watch the games once in a while, and I would see him play. Now, this guy was in the NBA, on the team. Now, he wasn't on he didn't play every play, but they would call him in and out, depending on the type of play. And his name was Reuben Gant. And his wife worked for me back, I'm talking 50 years ago, 40 years ago. And yet, as things happen, things turn over and he gets replaced, and bingo, he's out. And he's out. I mean, what is he going to do? He's going to go someplace and say, oh, yeah, I'm a football player? I mean, he has no skill. There's no, unless he wants to be a coach at a high school and make some miserable money and deal with these kids who are unruly and ignorant and whose parents don't give a damn. That's not a very good career path, that's for sure. Going from the NBA to, groveling for any job, is kind of a letdown. So, but my point being is that we do not educate, we do not inform our young people as to how to be productive in society. What we are doing is we are draining the middle class of the last vestiges of their wealth. Now, the middle class is dissipating. It's sort of going up in smoke because we're getting less rich as a nation. The middle class is divesting itself of its money. Money's going to those people who are less fortunate, less educated, who don't have jobs, and of course to the filthy rich who have connected. The 1% filthy rich have connections in Washington D.C., that area, all right? But the people in the middle are being sucked of every single dime that they have, all right? And this is just one way. There's dozens of ways that this is happening. So here we have the government sucking the money indirectly out of the middle class to send their children to school to obtain degrees in worthlessness, of which when they graduate, right, if their parents don't pay for them, cannot pay their loans off because they can't find a job, because they have a degree in worthless, because not one person sat down to them and said, Johnny, the probability of you playing basketball and you getting on the court is about 10,000 to 1. It ain't going to, not 1,000 to 1. It ain't going to happen. Unless you're just extraordinarily, you're 7'4" and you're so extraordinarily good, you're that 1 in a million. And Johnny, you're good, you're a real good basketball player, but your probability is about nil, you know? So play basketball, have fun doing it, but let's redirect your attention in becoming a productive member of society. We don't do that, right? All we do is suck money out of the middle class, give it to the government so the government could pay for the schools. The education industrial complex, those people are getting wealthy as all hell. And I love school teachers because school teachers consider themselves so professional, but they have to belong to a union. You know, if I'm a professional, I don't want to belong to a union. If I want to be a teacher and I know I have to belong to a union, I don't want to be a teacher. And then, of course, they need tenure so that in the event, after 10 years, in the event they decide to do nothing, they can never get fired. Here's another statistic that you'll love. In the free markets, in the marketplace, right? Regular jobs, you know, free market jobs, private jobs, right? The number of people who get fired is something like 10% a year. There's about 10% rate of people being fired for non-performance. In the school system, it's less than 1%. You can't get fired. It's almost impossible. You can be a slob, you can do nothing, and if you have tenure, you can't get fired. And even if you didn't have tenure, it's a cold day in hell for you to get fired because the union will be all over they'll close the school down. So you have incompetent people not educating our students as to what they should do when they're old. Now, there are many, many people that I know that are school teachers who are very dedicated. I'm not blaming the school person, the teacher themselves. Don't get me wrong. I'm talking about the system and not don't write to me and say, well, my aunt is a very dedicated. Yes, I have several people in my own family that are very, very dedicated, to the core, and very, very good teachers. You know, most of them are high school and grade school teachers, and they're very dedicated to this, and they do a very, very good job. Where we fall down is taking the reality, the world, the way it really is, the world that the students will be facing, and say, this is the harsh reality of life. You know, this is what you should be looking at. That we don't do very well at any level, especially at the college level. Because the more students, the more money, guess what you get when you get more money? You know, you get a fancier basketball court. And that's where I go full circle. And so here I am, I'm trying to enjoy this bohemian pizza, and I'm getting hacked off. That's being a talk show host. Things have to really bother you, because if they don't bother you, you don't think them through. If you don't think them through, you don't have a talking point. So if anyone wants to know how to become a talk show host, speak to me or listen to this broadcast. It'll give you an idea. If you can't do that, and if you're afraid to do that because you feel like, well, you know, it's not very positive, if you will. You know, it's a negative connotation. Then stay away. You don't belong there. I just got to notice is 1 out of every 365 NCAA players make the NBA. It's 565.
What?
It's 565, 525. Right?
Oh,
You
okay.
looked at the wrong place.
Okay, all right.
525. I looked it up yesterday.
Yeah, all right.
No, we haven't disagreed. Anyway, no, I'm serious. You may be right. I looked it up yesterday. It was 525,
Okay.
but it's immaterial.
Right, exactly.
It's almost immaterial. Once the odds are less than 2 to 1, you're finished. It's got to be now. 2 to 1 is one thing, you know. 300, 400, 500 to 1. Would you take a bet, Preston, on that?
No.
I said, I'll bet you 500 to 1 on this. Would you take the bet?
No, and I
No.
lost a lot of money here.
No, he lost a lot of money doing that. You see, he went to our school system. They didn't teach him that 500 to 1 is bad odds, you know. Okay, listen, we've already killed a half hour. I had a great time ranting into this microphone. I think it's broken at this point, you know. But let us stop for station identification. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
You're listening to Liberty Talk Radio. Political talk derived from a historical perspective. Not always palatable, but good food for thought. Pure libertarian talk with host Joe Cristiano. LibertyTalkRadio.com.
Express Test is your go-to company for on-site occupational health testing services. That's right, we said on-site. That means we will meet you at your facility for a free health and occupational safety consultation. Express Test specializes in hearing conservation, respiratory protection, and employee safety. We can help you establish viable programs tailored to your business and employee needs. For your free consultation, call 918-743-2929 or visit us at expresstest.com. That's 918-743-2929 or expresstest.com. Do you find yourself asking, what did you say? Aaron Cristiano of Ranch Acres Audiology has over 25 years of experience helping patients just like you.
Hearing requires conservation. We need to be aware and we need to be responsible for our own hearing health.
Understand more with a little help from Ranch Acres Audiology. Call 918-749-7711. That's 918-749-7711 to learn more. We'd like to thank attorney Constance Squires for her support of Liberty Talk Radio. If you want a comprehensive way to affordably avoid legal issues, call Constance Squires. For a free consultation, call 918-254-9283 or go online at isthyWillDone.com.
This isn't your typical talk radio show. This is Liberty. Liberty Talk Radio.
Folks, this is Joe Cristiano. You're listening to Liberty Talk Radio, where we are asking you to be a revolutionary in thought and a dissident in action. And this is what we're talking about today. We're talking about student debt. Now, I want to go one step further on this one subject that people like to gloss over and say, well, everything's okay. Let us all be positive. I'm positive that I'm absolutely right. I don't want to be positive that I'm absolutely wrong and then to be happy about it. It doesn't work that way. You have to understand that those people who should be the most productive people in our society are those people who are graduating high school and graduating college. Both. And they should be going into trades. They should be going into professions, whether it be advertising, whatever the case may be, the medical profession or whatever. All right? This is not happening. So what do you think demographically is happening to us as a nation? Well, we have a smaller group of people being born. Those people that are being born are going to school and graduating ignorant, without a trade, without a degree that can provide them with a good job, right? And we have more people my age who are now starting to take out of society what we put in for 55 years. Okay? Now, I'm going to be 72 years old in the next couple of weeks. Happy birthday, Joe. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. 72 years old. All right? Now, but I've been working since I'm 14 years old in my father's factory. So I have been working nearly all my life, and now I'm just starting to take a little bit of money out. Now, people say, oh, you should leave it in. You don't need the money. No, no, it's my money. I put it in. I want it back, and I'll never get back what I put into it. But we're taking out, right? Those that should be putting in to prop up the economy are not putting in. They're taking out also. They're taking out on student loans, and then they're getting jobs that can't provide them with an income. So you see where this demographics, our failed school system, all work together in unison, in this downward spiral of an economy of ours. And I don't care what people think. Now, I subscribe to the American Institute of Economic Research. I have for 20 years. And I could not disagree with them more. Now, these guys are the brilliant guys. I mean, these guys, they do nothing but study the economy. I could not disagree with them more. They feel more optimistic about the society and things are getting better. I'm saying these guys are smoking something. I don't know. Whatever they're smoking, they're not giving me any because I can use it. But it's not going in the right direction. It's going in the wrong direction. Just look at the I'm a demographics guy. Look at your demographics and then look at the qualitative measures within the demographics, the school system. And I want to hear from you guys, 888-773-4496. That's 888-773-4496. Listen, I'm ranting. I'll lose my voice soon. Call in. Just tell me I'm nuts. Whatever it is, Call in now, 888-773-4496. I know you're out there. I know you are. You better call in or I'll come and get you. All right. Now, I want to talk a little bit about a documentary that I saw on Saturday night. My wife and I, we came home. We said, well, let's watch a movie, and we went on Netflix and we looked at a documentary, and this was very insightful. It was about the people in Africa, and the people in Africa that pick cotton in Africa. And apparently, Africa is a very, very large producer of cotton. I didn't know this, right? And the people who pick cotton, and these are children, mostly children, and then even the elderly, pick cotton, make somewhere between 50 and 100 euro, which is about like $125, well, a little less than that now, a year. Could you imagine working hard in the fields 10, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week for a year, and making $125? Now you think to yourself, well, what's causing this? Well, there are many reasons for it. Let me give you a major one, and this is where the United States comes into play. And whenever the United States comes into play, it always seems to be something that we could correct and we don't, because the agricultural industrial complex takes hold and feeds itself at the expense of everyone around the world. Just like the military industrial complex, the educational industrial complex, we have an agricultural industrial complex. It's all the same. It's the same players, and they're all profiting by it. You see, what we do here, we grow cotton, but it costs us a lot of money to grow cotton compared to Africa. So what our government does is they subsidize the cotton farmers. So let's say I have no idea what the cost of cotton is. Let's say it's $10 a pound. I'm making it up. I have no idea what it is. All right. The government will give the cotton growers $9, right? And so they sell it out in the market for $1 a pound. So in Africa, in order for people to buy cotton from Africa, right, they need to, all they can sell it for is the market price. Well, the market price is $1 a pound, not $10 a pound. And again, I'm making up those numbers. I have no idea whether a bushel or whatever they call it. All right. Now, you say, well, what the United States is doing is that they're taking money, again, from the middle class, from the people who are working. They're taking money from me and from you, and even with good old Preston over here, my technician. They're taking money from everywhere. And Preston has no money, so they have no money, and you're taking money from you. So they're putting him further in hole, right, to pay cotton farmers to artificially lower the price, right? So people in Africa starve. Now, please, 888-773-4496. Will someone call in and tell me, give me an idea? I went blank on the screen. There I am. My beautiful face. You can't do without it, But I understand. Listen, I know how beautiful I am. I mean, I hate to admit it, but here we are. Here we are, starving people around the world, and then we call ourselves the bastions of free enterprise. What garbage, the garbage that comes out of the mouths of our elected officials is unbelievable. All right? That's what I mean. You have to be a revolutionary in thought, and you have to be a dissident in action. You have to be like me. You got to be a screaming maniac. And maybe if we all become screaming maniacs, something in this world will change. Because the world will change if the United States changes. But provided we continue going on the same path that we are going now, right, we will selectively destroy parts of the world, as we are destroying the cotton crop in Africa. If we really cared, where are our prostitutes or not prostitutes, what do they call them? News announcers, the prostitutes, our press corps. Gerald Celente, I love that guy. We lived on the Hone Avenue. Believe it or not, we lived in the same street together, near Arlington Avenue in the Bronx. Yeah. Anyway, but he calls them, and he's right. Now, see, I call our politicians criminals. Now, people say, Joe, how could you be so crass as to call them criminals? And how could you justify that? Well, first of all, there are some that really work hard and really want to see the United States do well, vote very well. You never hear from them. They're not on any committee. They're not on the Appropriations Committee. I mean, they wind up in office for a term or two, and then they get discarded. But for the most part, a majority of them are criminals. And the reason why I say criminals, and I mean criminals, is because what these people do, if we connived in business as they connive in Washington, the way they do, if we did that in the private sector, we would be serving 20 years in jail. We wouldn't get away with anything. These people do what we are not allowed to do, and they get away with it. Even those people who are caught red-handed, I mean, all the evidence in the world. And of course, then there's a hearing, and they ask the person questions. The person gives you some nebulous answers, and they say, well, we're going to deliberate on your answers, and then you never hear from them again. And then they wind up getting a better job in Washington, a higher level, making even more money. I mean, these people are criminals because if we did what they did in the private sector, same thing, we would wind up in jail. So if we would wind up in jail, that means we're criminals. If we're criminals, guess what they are? They are criminals. And we should look at them that way. So don't forget to vote. Remember that. You know, geez, I'm going nuts today. I think I'm going nuts today. You know, Preston?
Well, I think you're already there, but that's just my personal.
Yeah, he says, I'm already there. What are you going to
I've known
do?
you way too long.
Yeah. So why doesn't someone say, hey, let's stop this subsidy to cotton farmers because the people in Africa are starving. And what we're doing is we're taking money out of the middle class to pay cotton farmers who are already multimillionaires they're making contributions to my campaign of hundreds of thousands of dollars. I can't do that. You know, so you have this cycle of dependency that's draining the middle class and starving people in Africa. Why doesn't anyone talk about it? You know why? Because they're a bunch of prostitutes and they're a bunch of criminals, and you'll never hear about it unless you listen to Liberty Talk Radio. I tell you, one thing that really concerns me is this net neutrality. Net neutrality bothers me because now we're a utility, and once it gets all finalized, we're going to be considered a utility. And once you're a utility, what happens? You are regulated. Once you are regulated, I feel that all these programs, such as Liberty Talk Radio, and there are hundreds, maybe thousands of them, that are legitimate, that broadcast on a regular basis and provide people with true, real-life information, are going to have to be registered somehow. You're going to have to apply for a license like you apply for an FCC license if you have a radio program like what I should be on 1170 KFAQ. And when that time happens, they Liberty Talk Radio, they're going to say, oh, I don't think so. I'm going to have to go through hoops and jingles and whatever, and never going to happen. I'm afraid that net neutrality is going to kill the internet as we know it today, you know, because we're going to have regulations. We're going to be regulated by laws and regs that were instituted over 100 years ago, and they're going to apply that to the internet. Someone's got to connect those dots for me. I don't understand it whatsoever. I want to change the subject altogether. You know, I love war. War is great. War is great because, you know, war destroys the very fabric of society. And is there a problem?
No.
I'm sorry. Okay. Very fabric of society. There's no higher form of hatred. It's the epitome of hatred is war. And yet, what we do is we are constantly perpetrating war. We are perpetrating hatred around the world, and we want to know why other countries hate us. Why other countries hate us? Because we hate them. How do we hate them? War is hate. It's the highest epitome of hate that you can find is war, killing other people. Now, that doesn't mean that if we're minding our own business and someone invades our shore, that we don't protect ourselves. But when we go over there and dictate the fact that, or classify a certain group of people as being, well, they're probably bad people, we need to get rid of those people. We are broadcasting hate around the world. And if we want to know why there's ISIS and there are other radical groups that are trying to eradicate the United States from the Middle East, think, who's the one perpetrating the hatred? Is it really ISIS? Or is it the Western powers who are going into the Middle East and perpetrating hatred? In fact, we talk about Iraq. Where did Iraq come from? Iraq is a made-up country, is a fabricated country designed by the British Empire based on what they perceived would be of best interest to them. There's no Iraq. There was no country of Iraq. What about Israel? Israel was not a country. What they did is they told the Palestinians, get out, we're going to give your land to the Israelis, and people got upset. Then they say, well, geez, these people are terrorists. Wait a minute. Well, you just took their land away. If someone came to you, had a farm, and someone came to you and said, oh, by the way, get off your land, we're giving it to somebody else, what would you do? You'd fight back. You'd fight legally every way that you can, and if you couldn't, you may even get your shotgun out. But when people do that to us, we say, oh, look how terrible these people are. We have to fight back. We have to send more troops. There's something wrong with the American mentality. And the thing is, we've been so conditioned over the years to think this way, we actually think war is good and right. Now understand, if we stopped all of these wars, we brought all the soldiers home, we closed all the foreign bases, we dry docked all of the aircraft carriers, which are offensive weapons, our economy would collapse within a week. Now, of course, we would eventually build up, become a very strong nation because we wouldn't have any more debt. We wouldn't have this $1 trillion worth of debt every year. But we won't go through the pain. We'd rather persist it and for it to get worse and worse and worse until the very weight of war, of debt, gets burdened so high and so heavy on us that it collapses under its own weight, and then the politicians can make some sort of excuse as to why they have to confiscate our funds in order to get ourselves out of this malaise that we're in. Let me give you an example. Greece now is invading pension funds in order to pay its debt. Now just think of that. People who have worked and put money into a pension, that money's going, and in turn, they're getting long-term Greek debt as sort of a compromise back to them. Well, what value is long-term Greek debt? Zero. I mean, it's never going to be paid. Greece is bankrupt. It's like me going up to someone who's bankrupt, right, who has no money at all, who's in debt up to their eyeballs, and me giving them $20 and the guy says, I'll pay it back next week. What's the probability of me getting paid back? Zero. Never going to see it. The guy's going to take that money, eat, and then borrow another $20 because he's going to get hungry again. But Greek is now invading pension funds. They're having what they call bail-ins. We have names for everything. We don't call things what they are. We don't call battlefields. We call them theaters. The Iraqi theater. This is a play. This is people are not getting killed. This is phony. I mean, this is stuff that you watch on television. Vietnam was a theater. It was a bloody, dirty, filthy battlefield. But we don't want to think. We don't want to think, and don't forget to vote. Folks, we have to become revolutionaries in thought and dissidents in action. Right? What we should be concerned about as well, another thing that came up is carry trade. Now, most people hear that term, have no idea what it means, and basically what the carry trade is that if one country, by the way, our toll-free number is 888-773-4496. Let me hear from you, 888-773-4496. We have people on the board. If you want to ask a question, just press a button, the number 1 button, and then we'll put you on the air. And you can yell at me. I don't care. That's fine. Just turn me off for a while. Maybe I need the rest. But the carry trade, let's say Japan has zero interest rates or negative interest rates. Well, we borrow money from Japan, right? No interest whatsoever, but practically no interest at all, right? And we take that money, let's say we borrow 100 million yen from Japan, and we invested in a country that's paying 4%. Well, we do nothing other than convert one currency to another and get 4%. Right? We sit back and relax and make a hell of a lot of money. That's the carry trade. Carry comes from the from the term, they carry the money over from one day to the next. They're carrying over the debt from one day to the next, and you're trading one currency for another. That's called a carry trade. Okay. Now, I don't deal in that. I've often been tempted to do that because many people make tons of money, and if you look around, especially in Tulsa, there are people. There are no companies opening up, no manufacturing opening up. They're either boarded up or they're so old they're falling down. But there's one type of building that you find on every street corner. Almost every month a new one goes up, and that's a bank. And I often thought, how could we have so many banks? We have on the corner of where I live, down the corner, less than 1 mile away, there are 4 banks on one corner, and it's not a major intersection. 4 banks. Now you think, how could and you never see any cars there. There's never any cars in the parking lot. Now, if you go to a convenience store, you'll see 20 cars in a Quick Trip, for example, and they turn over. You can see why they're making any money. They sell beer and cigarettes and gasoline and snacks and all that stuff. And they're a great store. But then you pass by a bank, you see this $1 million building, at least $1 million building, no cars. Every once in a while, one car may come through. You never see any cars there. You say, well, geez, how do they make any money? Well, what they do is they borrow money at 0% interest from the Fed. They take that money, and we're talking millions and millions of dollars, and then they invest it in other currencies, that are paying 4 and 5%. Now, the problem with that, when you're getting 4 or 5%, you're investing in a riskier currency that could collapse any minute. So all of these banks are on the brink of high risk, in order to stay open, because they have no customers. They're not lending money out, but they're taking that money and they're engaging in the carry trade. So beware. If you have a lot of money in a bank, that bank may go bye-bye, and it could happen at any time. If we do have a currency crisis and all of these exchange rates change overnight, and that's the way it happens overnight so fast, no one can catch up with it. No one can get out fast enough. Because the first person that gets out, everyone else follows, and by that time, the whole system collapses. You can go to your bank and say, I want my money back, and then they say, sorry about that. It's in Tanzania. It's gone. So beware of the carry trade. Beware of the banking system. It's very, 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 very dangerous. And as far as the U.S. is concerned, our currency is losing its dominance as the world's reserve currency. Just recently, the UK has joined the Chinese Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, the AIIB. And what that is now, you have a major Western power is now involved in the monetary infrastructure of the East. This is what's happening. Money is going from the West to the East. And when we lose our dominance as the world's reserve currency, the ball game is over. All the money around the world that's used in reserves for trade is going to come back to the United States and enjoy your $40 loaf of bread, because that's what's going to happen to the dollar. Anyone who has money, most of their money in currency, not money, but it's currency in U.S. dollars, is at extremely high risk, because no one knows. It may go on for years, it may go on for decades, but it's a high risk on a day-to-day basis of that currency becoming worthless. I have just a minimum amount for my businesses. I have money. Obviously, I have a lot of money in businesses that I need to keep for working capital and whatever. But beyond that, I try to minimize the amount of money I have. I'd rather own some productive land, some arts, things of value, No, I don't own a new car because it's nothing of value. I still ride around in my 1996 Subaru. You know, Preston, I have 284,000 miles on that thing now, but I don't invest money like that. I put money where things of value, you know, whether it be commodities or whatever. And right now I'm getting murdered in commodities, you know. I've lost a ton of money, but it'll come back. I got to live long enough for it to come back. So I anticipate that I'm going to live a long period of time, all right? But I want everyone to be aware that what appears to you, what you see on television, what you hear, the advertising that you see, all the stuff is all a mirage. This is not reality. This is not the way you should be thinking. Everything you hear about school, everything you hear about education, everything you hear about trade, everything you hear about war, everything you hear about the economy is all a ruse. It's all gone. It's all wrong. You should do your homework and try to understand what is going on. And once you do, you too can become a famous and famous talk show host like Joe Cristiano on Liberty Talk Radio. And I guess that brings me full scope. You know, they say, well, Joe, how do you pick your subjects? Well, you could only pick your subjects to talk about because they evolve during the week. When you're observing something, you're saying, that's not right. When you see an ad for a car, you say, well, geez, how come they never give you the amount of the cost of the car? All they give you is the 0% down, 0 payments for 3 months, 0 interest, 0 maintenance for a year, and 0 registration fees. The 5 zeros, you know. In other words, the car sounds free. And then you wind up with this dinky little 4-door, crappy-looking car that looks like every other crappy little car that they make today. Just a small little, you know, and it's $38,000. That's the cheap one, you know. It's not free. And then you're in debt for the rest of your life. But don't forget to vote, okay? And with that, do we have anything else to say, Preston?
I don't think so. Not today.
Not today. All right, we have nothing else to do. Yeah.
You know, it's a Monday.
Yeah, we only have one more. I'd like to encourage everyone. Our Twitter address is @LibertyJoe. If you want to tweet me, you know, we're on LinkedIn, we're on iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, Liberty Talk Radio. Just go to our website, libertytalkradio.com, and you'll see all of our programs live on video. And now next week, this coming week, Thursday, we're going to have returning with us is one of my favorite economists, and that's Andy Sutton from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Andy is incredibly insightful. Please put on your calendar 8 o'clock. We're going to return back to 8 o'clock. We started at 7:30 because of a scheduling conflict today, but we're going to return to 8 o'clock Thursday Central Time. We're going to have Andy Sutton. He's going to talk to us about the state of the economy, where we're going, and just a status of what's going on, and maybe a takeoff from what we talked about today. Hopefully he'll springboard from this conversation. Okay, but with that, until next time. Okay, let me just play us our song, our music song, our closing. Okay. There we go. That's our closing. We'd like to thank thank you for listening. We'd like to thank our sponsors for the financial support, and we'd like to thank you for listening in. You can further the cause of liberty by recommending this program to your friends, but let us hear from you. Our email address is comments@libertytalkradio.com. Remember, folks, you're either allowing your liberties to be taken away or you're striving to protect them. Unfortunately, there is no middle ground. Until next time, this is Joe Cristiano. You've been listening to Liberty Talk Radio. Stay well, stay tuned.